Hi beauties, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is the first video of my best of 2019 series. I'm going to film this video in series this year because I have so many items to talk about that I can't really fit it into one video. So I decided to break it into multiple videos. So this is the first one, and today we're going to talk about complexion products such as foundation, concealer, and powder. So if you want to find out more, then just keep watching. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. So today I got my hair blown out and straightened. And when I get my hair straightened using the blowout method, it is really flat. So I apologize if my hair looks really flat. But that's just what happens with my hair whenever I straighten it this way. But also, you guys remember earlier this year, I got a haircut that was horrible. And my hair has grown back so I can stop complaining. I think one of the main things that helped my hair grow back was Olaplex. The Olaplex system, I've been using that, and I think that that's one of the main things that really helped to bring my hair back. So just wanted to shout them out. I'll probably be talking about them in my skincare hair care video. So stay tuned for that. Usually for my year-end videos, I try to dress it up, but it is hot in North Carolina right now. It feels like spring or fall, but certainly not winter. It is hot. If you're in North Carolina, who's with me? It's really hot. So I just kind of threw on something to be cool while I was filming today. I'm going to have on this same outfit for every video in the series. I might switch up my lip color, but I'm going to look like this just to let you guys know. Some of the products that I'm going to talk about throughout the series are products that I also mentioned last year, but I really try to focus on what did I really use this year? What were my real favorites? A lot of the products I talked about in my previous favorites videos, I still love. I really tried to narrow it down and focus on products that I absolutely love. So let's go ahead and get started. So primers that I loved throughout the year. I know you are tired of me talking about this one. This is my YSL Touche Eclat primer, and this is a new one. I showed you guys in a previous video where I was on my other one, and I have another one that's like got this much. And that one's in my other home. If you're new to my channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Also ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. But if you're new to my channel, you may not realize that I am living between two places. I will mention my temporary home, which is where I work, and right now I'm in my permanent home. And I have a little bit left of my other YSL primer, and it is in the other space. So I cracked this baby open here, and I love it. It has little gold flecks in it, and it is one of those blurring primers. So it is meant to blur. I have combo skin and I get oily in my T-zone, but I still absolutely love this primer. It does make your skin a little more radiant. I love how my foundation wears with it. It's my #1 primer. It has been for some time now. I forgot to mention these. This is my little mini Fix Plus. Still loving that as a prep spray, as well as my Smashbox primer water. This is a new one. I recently emptied a Smashbox primer water, so this is a new one. So I'll be using this shortly, and I'm trying to empty my little mini. And once I empty this, I'll go and re-up on my Fix Plus. But I also never want to be without these two babies right here. Another primer that I use all the time and I don't talk about as much, but it has been in my favorites. A lot of my primers are primers that I've been using for a while. And I love this Too Faced Hangover primer. This is a replenishing face primer. And again, it is one that adds moisture and hydration to the skin. But I find that my foundation really adheres when I use this one, and I don't find myself getting excessively oily. I do like some other primers that are more meant to mattify, like the Fenty primer and the Hourglass primer. I use those as well, but for some reason I still reach for these more hydrating and radiant primers. So this one I reach for all the time, and I will be needing to re-up on this pretty soon. Another primer that I started using within the last couple of months, again, it was also probably on my list of favorites last year, and this is the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base. And a lot of people might look at this because it's vitamin enriched and think it's for dry skin, but it's really good for oily skin. So I find that my foundation wears beautifully whenever I use this. The first time I used this, I received a point perks. So I used it as my primer and found that my foundation just lasted so long that day. So after I finished my point perks, I went out and purchased this one. This is still my first one. I've had this one for a while. I don't know whether it expired or not. It still smells the same, looks the same, feels the same. So I'm gonna keep using it until I empty it. I will empty it in 2020, I can promise you, but it is really good. A couple more primers. I started using my Tarte Timeless Smoothing Primer Base again this year. I purchased a new one because it was limited edition. It's no longer available, at least not at Sephora's website. And I've been putting quite a dent in it. And I like to use this in my T-zone to blur my pores. And it is mattifying and extends the wear of my makeup. And this is a holy grail primer. And I had kind of stopped using it. I was trying other things. When they came out with this limited edition one, I picked it back up and fell in love all over again. This is bomb diggity bomb bomb bomb. Bomb bomb. My last two primers that I want to talk about are the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Pores Primer. Again, got hooked on this one because I got it as a sample from Sephora the first time and loved it. It really blurs my pores really well. When I first started using this, I liked it even better than the POREfessional. Not quite sure whether I like it better than POREfessional now, but for a minute, I was liking it better than POREfessional. It just smoothed everything out, and I loved how it wore. The only thing that I don't like about it now is, as you can tell, it's white, so it's hard to see, but there's a lot of product left in this, and this has a pump on it, and it just should be a squeezy tube. It's like, let's not be fancy. It's a tube, so let's just squeeze it out of the tube. But because it has a pump, it is really hard to get the rest of it out. So in order for me to get this out, I have to squeeze it all the way up to the top and then hold the pump and pump it onto something and then use the primer. So it is really hard to get the last little bit of this out of this tube. So the packaging is not my favorite. At first I didn't really notice that it was bad packaging, but now that I'm at the end, this is horrible packaging. But the product inside is really, really good for erasing your pores. This is the POREfessional in Pearl, and once they released this one, I did a video on this a long time ago and fell in love with this, and I have not gone back to my normal POREfessional yet. I have a backup of the POREfessional that I have not opened. I've purchased this twice since buying that one, if that tells you anything. So this is like my first one, and then I have another one that I just opened in my temporary home. And the reason I like this one is it adds radiance but not oiliness, and it brightens. You're probably not going to be able to tell that this is a light pink, but this is a light pink and it brightens. So I use it in my T-zone and it brightens in that area, and I just really, really like it. I actually used it today and I just love how it brightens as well as blurs my pores. So I go back and forth. Right now I'm loving the Pearl POREfessional better than the Bye Bye Pores, but sometimes I love this one more. If you get either one of these, you can't go wrong. They are so, so good. So guys, 2019 was the year of foundation. Would you agree? I got on the bandwagon with everybody else. I was just buying foundation like I'm crazy. Crazy. I've narrowed it down to my favorite foundations, and I think that I purchased most of these this year. If I didn't buy it this year, I bought it late last year. This is an oldie but goodie. I want to start with this one because I started using this a lot in the last couple of months. This is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Foundation, and a few years ago, everybody was talking about this foundation. I'm still shocked by it because my last memory of Wet n Wild before recent years was this 99-cent tube of lipstick that I used to wear all the time in high school. 99 cents. The fact that Wet n Wild has kind of really gotten this cult following and makes really high quality makeup from the drugstore still amazes me. So this is like a $5 foundation, and it has this really cute little wand or spatula that you use to apply the foundation. And this one is in Toffee Pecan. And what I like about this is the long wear of this foundation. If I want my face to have full coverage with no imperfections and last all day, then this is the one that I'm gonna use. So I took it with me when I went to start my new job. I started using it again and I couldn't believe the coverage. I'm like, oh my goodness, I forgot how good this was. So I wanted to give it a shout out because it is still amazing foundation and I'm still shocked every single time I use it. I think it was this year, maybe at the very start of the year, I discovered this NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop foundation. The shade I wanted, it was out of, so I ended up getting it in Cinnamon and it worked pretty well for me. And this is just a really good, like, full coverage 24-hour wear foundation. Will not budge, will cover everything and make you look airbrushed kind of foundation. So I wanted to mention it. There are a lot of times when I will grab this if I want that kind of blank canvas kind of look. This is the one I'll reach for. It's something about it. It just airbrushes everything, covers all your imperfections. It is really, really good, and it's from the drugstore. Another foundation from the drugstore is the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Define. This is the shade F12.5. It has a doe foot applicator, and it was originally created to look like the Tarte Shape Tape foundation that they no longer make now. They switched it up and called it something else because of all the Tarte controversy. This is the foundation that I would wear to work, and there were a couple of people who would always ask me about my foundation on days when I would wear this. They're like, what's that on your face? What is that one? They just loved it and it looks so good. I don't know what it is about this foundation, but most of the time when I had like this full beat, perfect looking face, I was wearing this. So this is drugstore. You can get it at Ulta. It is really good. This is my final one from the drugstore. I can't remember when I got this because I did film a video on it. I feel like it was this year, but this is the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour Fresh Wear Foundation in, I think it's probably Toffee again. Toffee. Most of the time I'm Toffee. Toffee, caramel, shades like that. Food. This is another one where I get a lot of compliments whenever I wear it, and I always feel like I'm wearing a high-end foundation when I wear this one. It's very lightweight, it is full coverage, and it is long lasting, and it gives you a natural finish. That's what I think. I love this foundation. I think this is so good. The only thing about this one is it is fragrant. It does have a pump on it, a dirty pump, but this one has a fragrance. If you don't like fragrance in your makeup, you might not like this, but it is really good, and it is hard to believe it is drugstore foundation. Let me go ahead and say this too before we continue on, because I could tell you one thing: my cheeks have gotten chubbier. My hair is already flat, but I can tell my cheeks are chubbier than they were a few months ago because I've been eating. Your girl been doing some holiday smashing. Okay, next. Now let's talk about a few more foundations, and these are some high-end foundations. This is the Marc Jacobs Shameless foundation. I think this is the cutest packaging. It squeezes out, and I think it's very travel friendly. This is the shade, I think Y400 is my shade, and this is still on sale at Sephora for like half price. Like, this is like $23 now. So if you want to try a high-end foundation, this is the time to get this. I'm not sure if they're getting ready to discontinue it, but I bought this on sale a couple of months ago and it is still on sale. I hope they're just trying to get rid of their inventory. It is so good. To me, it is a natural finish, medium buildable coverage, and I wear this when I want to feel like I have nothing on. Like, I don't think it's no makeup. It's not like a tinted moisturizer or anything like that, but it just doesn't look cakey and heavy on the skin. and I love it. I just love the finish. And I had this on one morning when I went to breakfast with my best friend, and she asked me what foundation I was wearing. And she's not somebody that really is all into makeup, so she usually doesn't care what I'm wearing. But that day she asked. So good stuff. I think that this made my list last year. This is the La Mer, the Soft Fluid Foundation, except this one is in the shade Amber. I went with a darker shade this time, and I actually have a video comparing Amber to Honey. I think both of them are in the warm family, but this one is a better match for me. So I still have Honey, and I still will use Honey because this costs $120. I think it's $120 for this. So I will still use Honey. But I've been using Amber a lot, and I don't know what it is about this foundation, but when I first tried this foundation, I filmed a review on it, and I didn't think it was all that special. But now I love it. It fills in cracks and crevices on my face. Like, I just think that's one of the things I seem to like about it, is that it seems to have filler or something. It makes your face look so smooth and beautiful and youthful. It's like age defying. It has the miracle broth in it. It's supposed to be really good for your skin. So I really love this foundation. Even though this has a very big price tag, I will continue to buy it. Yes, I will. This is the Pat McGrath Foundation Skin Finish Sublime Perfection Foundation. This is in the shade Something Too Light. My shade match was very light. This is in the shade Medium 18, and it is too light, but I make it work because I didn't feel like returning it and then having to reorder it because my store does not carry this foundation in store. So I would have had to reorder it. And I keep this one in the box because this box is so beautiful. This foundation is more expensive than your average foundation. I think it maybe cost $68, but it is more expensive than your average foundation, but not as expensive as the La Mer foundation. And a lot of people think that this isn't worth it, but I think that they're mistaken. If I wear this foundation on camera, my skin looks immaculate. It looks airbrushed. It looks supple. It doesn't look like dry. It just looks its best when I'm wearing this. And the same thing when I wear it in person. It is a long wear foundation, but it's more like light to medium coverage. It's medium coverage, but you could really just put a thin layer on this and call it light coverage. But it still lasts all day and still provides adequate coverage to be beautiful. So it doesn't seem like it's a long wear foundation by the way it applies, but it is. So I think that this is certainly worth the money. It also has skincare ingredients in it, just like the La Mer. But same thing as the La Mer, it fills in lines on my face. Having a YouTube channel is a benefit for me because I can really see how foundation looks on me on camera versus in the mirror. Sometimes the mirror just doesn't tell you what it needs to tell you. But I can look at myself in video and I can tell the quality of the foundation that I'm wearing based on how I look in video. And this foundation looks amazing in video and in pictures. I think it's certainly worth it. People have given it mixed reviews for some reason, but I'm like, did you look at yourself after you put this on? Especially YouTubers, did you really look at yourself and examine how your skin was looking? When I wear this, period, it takes my skin to another level. I wasn't sure if I'd want to pay for this again, but now I know. I've worn it long enough to tell you, yes, I will buy this again. I'll get my shade right. I think that shade 21, I've said this before, but I think 21 has the same undertone as 18. But I'll go up to another shade in my same neutral undertone and I'll get it right. But this is so, so good. The last foundation that I want to mention that I fell in love with this year is the YSL All Hours Foundation. B70 Mocha is this one. It has a pump, and I matched myself online and I went darker than whatever my shade match was, and I got it right with this one. And I feel like this is one of the original shades, but I'm just now trying it, guys. This has been out for a while. I'm just trying it because I never have the right shade match online. Based on the match, the shade matcher, it told me I didn't have a shade in this foundation, but because I went darker, I did have a shade that I could have been wearing all along. You guys know what I mean? Oh my goodness, guys. This foundation is probably my favorite of all of the ones that I mentioned today. It gave me the most beautiful finish. The full coverage was there. It reminded me of my Dior Skin Forever foundation, but better. It just, like, once you apply it, it's in place, but it looks very natural. It says it is up to 24-hour wear, flawless, matte, full coverage, oil-free. I don't know what it is about this, but I love applying it with a brush or a beauty blender. It just looks so beautiful on my skin. It was my best first impression, and I felt good about this foundation from that point forward. I never looked back once I tried this. It is so good. It's like one of those foundations that I kind of sit aside and I wear it on special occasions. Like, I don't want to wear it all the time because I love it that much. That's weird. But I find myself trying to make sure that I don't use it all up because I love it that much. It's good. It is really good. So this is like my #1 find of 2019. Let's talk about concealers. I'm gonna start with this one because it was on my list last year. This is the Cover FX G Medium 2. It's a little bit lighter than I normally would wear for my concealers. I think I might have purchased it online. The very first half of the year, I used this pretty much every day. It wasn't until I started purchasing some others that I switched it up. But I know at the very beginning of the year, I was wearing out this Cover FX. It has a very unique applicator, like a little ball on the bottom. So I make these little dots under my eye and I mix it in, and it doesn't crease, and it's beautiful. And I will be purchasing this again. It is really, really good. Just to let you guys see how light it is, it's a little fair. Just a little bit fair for me. So I may get it a little bit deeper when I re-up on this. I use it less now because I have some other favorites, but at the beginning of the year, this was my bae. Let's talk about this Armani in a shade I can never tell you guys, because when I say this is little, this is so tiny. But I wish I could tell you what it is. I'll try to look it up from my past orders. But I really like this concealer, except it doesn't cover my dark circles. So I typically like mixing it, and sometimes I mix it with this ColourPop No Filter one. Mixed together, I get a really good look, a smooth under eye. This is really not very cakey at all, this Giorgio Armani. It's a very smooth, natural finish, and I just love how my under eyes look. I just hate that it doesn't cover my dark circles as well as I'd like. So at first I thought I will never buy this again because it doesn't do what I need it to do. But I'm not so sure now because I reach for it a lot. Even though it doesn't cover my dark circles, I just mix it with something else that does. So this has been really good. If you don't have a dark circle issue, you will like this, especially if you like a natural looking concealer. And again, this is also a favorite, mostly because I've been using it with this one, but still very good. The No Filter Concealer, and this one is in the shade Medium Dark 32 is what I think this one is. Very, very good. Tarte Shape Tape is not over here because just go ahead and infinitely put it on my favorites list. It will stay on my list as long as they don't change the formula and the needs of my under eye don't change. As you age, you know, your skin changes. With every year, your skin may be a little different. So if the needs of my skin changes, then I may have to change the products that I'm using. But right now, Tarte Shape Tape still bae, but not over here because let's just go ahead. It's a permanent part of the list. Permanent. What is on my list that's also probably permanent as well is the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer. I cracked open a new one this year. This one is in Biscuit. This concealer is amazing. My daughter was the first person to ever turn me on to this. It is exactly what the name claims, Radiant Creamy. It is not super luminous, but it is perfect for the under eye because to me the under eye can be dry sometimes, and this adds just the right amount of radiance while still covering. It is just perfect for your under eye, and it doesn't crease or settle into fine lines. So this is like one of those go-to holy grail type of products. Like if I'm unsure about a concealer, if my under eyes are acting up and I'm unsure what should I use today, I'm gonna grab this one because it is going to work. It is never going to fail me. That's how good this NARS Radiant Creamy is. Speaking of NARS, I still love the NARS Soft Matte Concealers, so much so that I picked up a new one. This is my previous one in caramel. I use this still to carve out my brows. I didn't use it today, but I use it a lot to carve out my brows. It's a little bit darker. And my daily one that I use is Biscuit. This is a second Biscuit, and then I have the caramel. So I've purchased this 3 times, and this is a concealer that's good for covering any blemishes that you have. So if I want to do that, I'm going to use the caramel one because it's a little darker, but it's also really pretty under the eye and it blends out really quickly. Like I like this one a lot when I'm going to work because I can just dab a little bit under my eye to cover dark circles, and I don't use this one when I'm kind of going all out. Like if I'm doing my Instagram baddie look, I'm not going to use this. I use this one for work, just to serve a purpose and move on. It can be used for Instagram baddie. I just don't use it that way, but it is so good. I have a couple of more. This is a quick mention. I went back to this right here recently within the last month. This is a NYX HD Concealer. I have 2 of these. I have 2 of these because this one is too dark and this is too light, so I have to mix them together. This is CW07 and CW06. Let me just take a moment. This is a drugstore concealer that when I first started out on my channel, it was my holy grail concealer. I think I maybe used this in the Radiant Creamy, and then I added on Shape Tape. And that was what I used forever before I continued to purchase more concealers. And I forgot about it. Like I moved away from it because when you're trying new products, you just stop using some of the products that you used to use. And I went back to this recently and I'm like in the mirror going, wow, I cannot believe how well this covers dark circles. And I can't believe how smooth my under eyes look and how little this settles into fine lines. So there's no creasing with this concealer. And I like stare at my under eyes like when I use it. I'm like, oh my goodness, why is nobody talking about this anymore? I think people used to talk about it, and then again, just like me, we started using other things, but nobody talks about this anymore. I don't want to rank this. This is up there as far as one of the best concealers I've ever used. So this is the NYX HD Concealer. If you haven't tried it, you want to give it a try. So good. Do you see why I decided to do this in multiple videos? Another concealer that I discovered this year that I fell in love with is the Boing Cakeless Concealer by Benefit. It has a doe foot applicator. It has really cute packaging. Because I'm an educator, I love the fact that it has the little eraser on it, and it claims to be cakeless and creaseless, and it is cakeless and creaseless. It is very full coverage. It is similar to the Shape Tape. What else do I have? Also, I think I would say something like this is too. The ColourPop one is as well. It has that similar consistency. It is very, very good, guys. This is a new launch this year, and when I was at Sephora and looking for a concealer to try, because I'm always trying concealers, looking for the next best thing, even though I have a lot of the best things. I'm always looking for something else to wow me. One of the cast members told me about this one and said you should try it. My shade is number 8. It's a perfect shade for me. It's lighter than my foundation, so I really like that shade. I will probably buy this again. That's how much I like it. It's so good. The last concealer I want to talk about probably made the best impression on me this year, and I was shocked. I was shocked. I was shook. Still can't believe it. It is the Milani Conceal and Perfect Concealer. And I guess I'm always shocked if it's drugstore. I'm sorry, but I am. Can't help it. Drugstore's come a long way. This one is the shade Warm Beige. And I will oftentimes grab this concealer in lieu of any of my high-end concealers. It looks beautiful. It smooths my under eye. It doesn't crease or settle into fine lines. And I would purchase this again. Once I discovered this, like, I didn't need to keep looking. This was good stuff. It still is, still good stuff. Like, the Boeing would probably be a close second as far as impressions, but this is like #1 for me this year as far as new concealers in my collection that wowed me. Milani wowed me. Final products I'm going to talk about in today's video are my powder products. So let's talk about those. So let's talk about first this powder foundation. It's like a MicroSmooth foundation by Sephora. It is in bronze. It also has the word tan on the back. The shade is bronze. I re-upped on this year. So for me to hit pan on a powder product means I use it a lot. And I hit pan on the other one. It looked a hot mess. I actually filmed a video. I think it was a back to school kind of video using powder foundation. A lot of times I will use this as my only foundation if I am running out to run errands, going to breakfast on the weekends and things like that. I'm not going to be out very long. I'll just use my powder foundation just to kind of get rid of any imperfections, and then I'll be out the door. So very good as a powder foundation on its own, and it's also good to set your makeup. So it's good for setting liquid foundation as well. I love this. It is Sephora collection, so it is fairly affordable at Sephora. Very good. This is a product I mentioned last year, I think. This is the Maybelline Fit Me Loose Finishing Powder, and it reminds me a little bit of my Chanel powder, except this one is really mattifying. This one is in light medium 20. Whenever I want my makeup to last and I don't want it to budge, I will use this one. So for a drugstore powder, this is very good, and I would put it up against some of my high-end powders in a hot minute. It is very mattifying. It makes your foundation last. It sets. Everything is into place. Good stuff. The Huda Beauty Banana Bread Powder. I love this powder. I like the finish that it gives me. You could use this to set all over. I typically will set my T-zone with this one, and then I'll use one of my darker powders to set the perimeter of my face. But this Huda one I really used throughout the year, and I loved it. Still love it. Very good. And I also at one point I think I liked Huda better. I go back and forth. I also love the Fenty in Banana. I think Fenty is more yellow and the Banana Bread is a little more white, but they both kind of have that yellow tint. The Huda powder is fragrant. This one is not. And I like the Fenty packaging just a little bit more than the Huda packaging. This is just a box. This is really luxurious and very pretty, but I like them both. So I typically will alternate between the two of these on my vanity, and am happy that I purchased them. Will re-up on them whenever they empty. The last couple of powders are powders that I did talk about last year, I'm sure, and that is the Laura Mercier translucent powder. This one is almost empty. I did re-up on this, but the other one is where? At my temporary home. So the translucent, and I also love the medium deep. I use the medium deep around the perimeter of my face, and then I use translucent down the center. I used it to set my makeup today. It's not too mattifying. If you have really oily skin, I would say go with one of these as well as the Fit Me powder, because I think they're better for oily skin. I think this is more just natural finish, It gives you a very smooth under eye. It brightens really well. The color of this is just perfect. Even though it's translucent, it really brightens my under eye. Today I'm wearing a lot of bronzer. I don't know if it's brightened all that much, but a lot of times this brightens really well. So I just like it. A lot of people love Laura Mercier. It's a holy grail for a lot of people. I don't need to go on and on about how great it is, but it is still great. And I never want to be without that one. That's how good it is. Never want to be without it. It's getting time for me to replace my Chanel powder. This is 40 Translucent 3. So it's a deeper shade. It's like a brown shade and really good for a woman of color like myself. I use it to set the perimeter of my face, and I'll use something like this or the Fenty or the Huda to set the center. I use this today as well. It just gives you a very beautiful airbrushed finish, and whenever I use this powder, I love the outcome. Like, I can tell when I first apply this, I'm like, oh, that powder does something. It's really special. It's just a really special powder. I want to think it was maybe $50. It's more than your average loose powder, but it's so good. So I think it's worth it. I love it. This is the only one I've purchased, and I haven't had to re-up on it yet, just based on how I use it. But I will be re-upping on it soon. This is another one that I don't want to be without. Lash powder. This is my MAC blot powder. I talked about it. Look at it. It's starting to look terrible. Hit and pan. It's starting to look rough. But this one is in the shade dark. I carry this in my purse to touch up. Like, and sometimes I will touch up on camera just so you guys can see the magic of it. It is like a matte powder that just does magic. You see how it just took away any shine that I had right there in my T-zone. So all I had to do is this right here. And I typically don't have to do much on the other parts of my face, just like my nose, you know, your normal powder my nose. But this is by MAC Cosmetics. I've been using it for years, still using it, still loving it. So that's it for round one, guys. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this. I know that this one still might be a little bit long, but I really wanted to share all of these products with you guys. I feel like I had a pretty good mix of high-end and drugstore. I'm always worried because I work at Sephora, I get a discount, and I purchase a lot of products from Sephora, and I find myself not spending as much time in Ulta or at the drugstore, and I've got to kind of make myself go to see what's new at the drugstore. So in 2020, I'm going to try to do more of that and spend a little bit more time at the drugstore, because there are a lot of good things at the drugstore too. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed today's video. Be sure to be on the lookout for my next video. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about bronzer, contour, blush, and highlighter. So be sure to check that out. So thank you once again for hanging out with me today. Please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll be seeing you guys again very soon in my next video. So until the next time we meet again, this is Savvy, signing out.